Welcome everyone who joined today's session on our blockchain series. Today is going to be Blockchain 101 to review the fundamentals of this great technology. I'm Sandra Ford, an operating partner here at Republic, normally residing in New York City where Republic is headquartered. My colleagues also on the call who will be presenting and helping with the Q&A are calling in from San Francisco, the secondary headquarters of Republic, but of course we are all working remotely. All right, so thank you so much for joining today's call. And for all of you who have submitted questions, we have received over 150 questions from you. We really appreciate it. And seeing all the questions from the audience, from you, really reminded us how opaque the blockchain industry is perceived as, and we are so happy that we can provide hopefully some valuable educational lessons to you to learn about this industry and debunk some of the biggest questions many of you have. Just a couple of thoughts I would like to share before our speaker, Bryan Myint, is gonna take over the session. So today, some of the largest companies have adopted blockchain technology in some level into their business model. According to 101blockchain.com, some of the companies that were listed are Visa Card, Barclays Bank, HSBC, Walmart, Ford, Shell, and many governments actually. So given the widespread adoption, we at Republic believe that these technologies continue to shape the future of work, the future of living, and we hope to provide educational resources to you to help you evaluate businesses knowing this technology. So let's dive in to the fundamental elements of blockchain today. Bryan, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sandra. Sorry, I was just replying to some questions out here. We will be sending out the link for Blockchain 201 after this. And I was super amazed hearing where all you guys were coming in from. That's really awesome. Crypto and blockchain is truly a global thing. And I'm super excited that there's a ton of representation here. I did see some people calling in from California and Los Angeles, which is where I am. So welcome everybody. So just a little bit about me. I'm the co-founder at Republic's crypto arm, Republic Crypto. And I'm also a partner at a digital asset firm called Torion Capital. Like many of you, and maybe many of you will be in the future, I dove deep into the crypto rabbit hole, probably close to like 2015, 2016. And I've just been going all in. I've been mining crypto, like researching like all sorts of things and investing. And maybe like such as you guys, like I first started by investing and then I got really interested and then I just started like reading and going on different forums, Reddit, Telegram channels, Slack channels, and just like learning as much as I can. And just through life, I've kind of been exposed to Republic and saw what they were doing for the fundraising space in general. And I thought that, you know, that type of fundraising can be applicable to crypto back in 2016 when a lot of crazy stuff was happening. As you guys may have heard in the ICO space, you know, a lot of non-compliant stuff happening. But as you guys have heard about Republic, like our angle is really to make things very user-friendly and compliant. And that's kind of why I've joined Republic, to help kind of build out the crypto arm and also to share this knowledge with you guys. So a little bit about some of the stuff I've done before joining Republic. I've done a ton of stuff. I worked as a consultant. I worked in startups. So I've done stuff from small companies to like large Fortune 500 companies. And I've also, my background has actually been in engineering. So the technical side of blockchain really appealed to my curiosity. And hopefully I can like share and distill some of that information for you guys. And hopefully you guys will come across blockchain and understand it a little bit more after this meeting. And, you know, if you guys have any questions, please just pop it in the chat and I will address them live as they come in. You know, I kind of want this to be a discussion I know you guys are muted, but please just like ask questions in the chat and I will address them. And then we will have about 10 to 15 minutes at the very end for a true Q&A where you guys can, we'll unmute you guys and then we can have like a discussion on things that are like burning questions or ideas and things like that. I also did see, a lot of you guys submitted some questions beforehand on the Google form. And I made an effort to kind of sprinkle some of that information throughout the presentation. So hopefully I've addressed a good amount of those questions through this presentation. All right. So what are we going over today? Basically, I wanted to talk about what is blockchain and what is cryptocurrency. Those are two very separate things, although maybe some people hear them interchangeably, but I wanted to address that first and foremost. I want to talk about the benefits of these technologies. So like, what's so good about using blockchain? Why do people use it? What are the pros and cons? And then application, right? Like the third part is like use cases. So once we figure out what's good about them, we can also learn like how are companies using these to build really cool stuff. And then last but not least, like how does this kind of like pertain to Republic and why is this something that's interesting and why am I even talking about this? All right. So something for all you guys to know is blockchain isn't like some crazy new thing. It's new in that, people are starting to pick it up now, but it's not like an alien technology, right? It's a database architecture. Blockchain is a way to store data and organize it and keep it in a safe, secure like manner. There's no, I can go into like why it's called blockchain. That's probably gonna be safe for our 201 class, but essentially applications that are built on blockchain technology typically have the following 4 principles. And I'm saying typically because there's a lot of blockchains that don't have these, but the majority of them are secure, decentralized, open source, and they're actually pretty slow. And that's important because this blockchain is not like a savior technology. It's not gonna like fix every problem. Blockchain are secure because the way they are built, they leverage something called cryptography. And that's how you secure each block. And a blockchain is called a blockchain because they have a block of data. And then after that, you add another block of data and you chain them together with cryptography. And that's how you kind of store like transaction histories or store bits and pieces of digital data. And they're all secured through cryptography. And another interesting aspect about blockchain is that all that information I was just talking about that's secure is decentralized, meaning there is no like central spot where all the information is kept. They're usually all kept in different nodes. And what that means is like, you have a computer at home, I have a computer at home, like we can run a blockchain node and save that data on our computer. We can't get to it because it's encrypted, but also that data is copied on multiple locations. This is a stark contrast from, central banks where a lot of the information is set in their servers owned by the companies, or any like traditional centralized company, like they own their data and it's in their company's, intellectual property, and that's it. It's not copied anywhere else. Whereas things like Bitcoin, they're really located, anywhere there's a node. So it's something, the word is called decentralized. And you hear that all the time. I'm sure, whenever you guys read anything about blockchain, you hear about decentralized systems. So I wanted to make sure that I address that point because I do know that people hear that a lot. So, okay, moving on a little bit. The next 2 things I want to talk about are open source and kind of the slowness of blockchain. One cool thing about blockchain is that it is what's called open source, meaning like anybody can like look at the transaction history and see the transactions that are happening. They might not be able to identify who the people that are making the transactions are, but they can definitely see that a transaction occurred. So that's important for something like Bitcoin, where, if I'm transferring Bitcoin to Sandra, or if I'm transferring Bitcoin to Robin or Harry, like it's not going to say Bryan sent to Harry, but it's going to say like this address sent to that address. And now there's like a track record of something happening. And that's really, yeah, it's public information. That's right. So it is public, but only parts of it are public. And what's cool about that is that now, like, you can't accuse, companies of hiding information. Like, everything is kind of out there, and it's really interesting to see what kind of business models come out of that. I do want to put a disclaimer here, because there are blockchains called like private blockchains or closed blockchains that are not open source, but they still use like the secure and decentralized technology that I was talking about before. So it is possible to build a blockchain that's secure, decentralized, and not open source, although the majority of blockchains are actually open source. It's a good question. Slow. I'm going to dive into that one next. What that means is, because of the decentralized and secure nature of blockchain, it takes a while for all the nodes to agree that, the data is true, right? So as I mentioned, that they're decentralized. So like a lot of different nodes are running, copies of the blockchain, and that's how it has its security. But in order for that to happen, it takes some time. So for example, Ethereum can run close to like 15, 16 transactions per second. Bitcoin runs about 6 to 7 transactions per second. So that can be fast compared to paper, but it's slow compared to something like a Visa credit card or, sending money on Venmo, but those are centralized services. So there's like kind of, there's basically trade-offs for these types of like pros and cons. But I wanted to kind of like introduce these 4 concepts to you guys, because those are kind of like the key concepts behind blockchain as a database architecture. And that's what we say when we say, hey, we're building something on blockchain. Like we're creating a technology that uses these types of properties. And then I want to address now the word crypto. Crypto comes from the word cryptocurrency, which is something that is built on top of blockchain technology. So when I mentioned before, blockchain uses the encryption and cryptography to kind of like secure transactions, you can actually mint or create these digital tokens called cryptocurrencies. And those are, so Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, Litecoin is a cryptocurrency, algo tokens from Algorand are cryptocurrencies, XRP. So these are all things that are built on top of underlying blockchains. I hope you guys get that. So that's why people use blockchain and crypto very interchangeably, because a lot of blockchains do have cryptocurrencies built on top of them. But it's important to note that Bitcoin does not equal blockchain, or crypto, comes from things that are built on top of blockchain. Crypto from cryptography, yes. So Rick, that's a good question. Does crypto come from cryptography or cryptocurrency? It's however you want to do it. I like to think that crypto comes from cryptography, but also crypto is short for cryptocurrency. You could say like, I own a bunch of crypto. That probably means you own a lot of cryptocurrency. Does cryptocurrency need to register with the SEC? That really depends. I'm not a legal expert, but basically if it's a security, it needs to register with the SEC. If not, then it doesn't. That's all I can say on that topic. Built on top. So that's a good question. So think of Bitcoin. The Bitcoin blockchain is the blockchain that I was talking about, secure, decentralized, open source, and slow. But on top of that blockchain, like whenever people mine blocks, I know this is getting a little bit complicated, but whenever people mine blocks, they get a reward in the form of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is a token that can be exchanged on the blockchain like that. So that's why it's built on top of blockchain. Sorry, I'm just reading these questions real quick. All right, great. Hope that was useful. I'm gonna go through the presentation a little bit more because I know we only have 45 minutes. So useful diagram. I do want to give you guys like a visual. So maybe Virginia, this can help you. How does blockchain work, right? So you have a transaction. Hope you guys can see this, but basically there's 6 steps to like how a blockchain can work. You have your transaction. We'll just use Bitcoin as an example. I'm sending Virginia some money through Bitcoin, and basically on the Bitcoin network, that transaction is stored as data on a block. And then that data is sent to all the node runners, which I talked about in the last slide. And everybody has that information. and all the nodes are coming to consensus that, hey, Bryan sent Virginia 1 Bitcoin. I wish I had 1 Bitcoin to send, but if I did, I would send you an entire Bitcoin, and then every node is going to say, okay, yes, Bryan sent 1 Bitcoin to Virginia. And then whoever actually verifies that data, so if you're running a node and you verify that and you're the first one to do it, then you can actually receive Bitcoin as a reward for doing that. And that's why, Bitcoin being on top of the Bitcoin blockchain is the way we phrase it. So now, let's say Virginia wants to send a Bitcoin to Kevin. And that basically is another transaction that's appended right after. So you can see how these blocks kind of build on top of each other and are chained together using cryptography, which is some complex computer math that I'm not going to get into. So that's kind of how blockchain works as a visual. So now that you guys kind of have like a basic understanding of the technology, and again, we're going to dive deeper into it in the 201 session. I want to talk about the benefits of blockchain and cryptocurrency. So what is this technology good for? I kind of went into it a little bit earlier, but building these decentralized companies is like a new paradigm, right? You can now create companies that don't have like a centralized entity. And what I mean by that is, let's just take banks, for example, or we could take Uber, for example. We can say, because Uber consolidates everyone's rider information, transactions in the Uber company. And they're saving all that information, and they see everything you guys are doing, and they can like fluctuate prices and all that stuff without you knowing it. However, let's just say you create a decentralized version of Uber where all the rules are baked into blockchain. And this is called using smart contracts. Basically, you're programming these rules into a blockchain, meaning like, okay, if I take a ride from, let's just say I take a ride from Rick, and Rick is a driver. Their Uber essentially is just code, right? You can just take that code and say, whenever Rick drives the car, you can execute a transaction, maybe sending Bitcoin, maybe sending a USDT, a stable coin, and the payment is done automatically instead of like needing to have Uber do it. Therefore, Uber doesn't need to take a cut for everything that we do. And having all that automated is a new type of technology that is only enabled through like blockchain technology. I'm gonna pause there because for me, that was a pretty like groundbreaking moment when I was like, okay, you can now build these companies that have no need for a centralized authority or centralized medium to take, the cut, or have these like closed payment practices or charges or like, surge pricing. So I thought that was really interesting. Yes, that is big. Are there any questions there? I want to make sure that point is kind of clear. So yeah, thanks, Sanford. Does anybody do you guys get it? You can say yes or no, or if you guys want me to explain it more, I can explain that as well. All right, got it. Yeah, I can definitely explain it one more time. And that's a good question. Does someone have to pay for the code to be put on the blockchain? So that's what developers are doing. So people aren't being paid to do this. However, in the Bitcoin example, whenever you're building on blockchain or you're creating things, building technologies on blockchain, there are tokens, and these tokens are what the developers typically have. And as the blockchain grows and has more users, the tokens have a potential to be worth more money. And that's kind of what's incentivizing these early adopters to build. So, if you and I were gonna go build an Uber, I don't think this is actually gonna happen, but let's just say you and I are gonna do Uber on the blockchain, and we like fork Uber, and we're gonna assume that we're not gonna get sued or anything like that. We can do that, and we can mint our own like Uber token, and like whenever people take rides, they transact on the Uber token, or we can even plug it into the Bitcoin blockchain, and people can take rides from that. And by building the technology, thanks for clearing that up. Uber doesn't have any IP. And by building on that technology, when we have those tokens, as our network grows, we make money from that. So yeah, it's kind of like a DAO. Correct, Michael. You seem to know like what's going on. It's basically like building a DAO with smart contracts. We're still pretty early in the life cycle of the blockchain industry to see any like fully successful things happening. But that's why it's so interesting to explore it right now, right? So, and that's what I wanted to present you guys with these information. I'm not saying that anyone's really doing this, perfectly, but people are exploring these. And just like I wanted to open you guys up to the idea that these kind of technologies can exist. Okay, moving on. As I mentioned earlier, blockchain architecture can allow for the creation of auditable and secure databases, as I explained in the Bitcoin example. And for the first time, digital items can now be certifiably unique. So that's interesting because we could take the Bitcoin example again. If I send one Bitcoin to Virginia, I no longer have that Bitcoin and Virginia has that Bitcoin, and that's all stored on the Bitcoin blockchain. What's super cool about that is that that's the first time in history that a completely digital item I can send to somebody and they won't have a copy. So who's sent an email? Everybody has sent an email. Who sent a text? Everybody sent a text or a photo. If I send you a photo, so Michael, if I send you a photo, you have that photo and I have that photo, right? I send you a selfie. So there's no way for me to give you my selfie and I no longer have it. However, with Bitcoin, you can do that. Bitcoin is a completely digital thing. If I send you a Bitcoin, you now have it and I don't have it anymore. Now, if you think about that, how you can make completely digital things unique, like that also opens a ton of doors for new things. Think about gaming, think about digital art, think about digital collectibles. So that's just something that this technology is good for. And then tying right into that, as we transfer digital goods, you can transfer digital value, and you can send things now in the same way. I can send Bitcoin. I don't even know where Virginia is. Virginia could be in Virginia, or Virginia could be in, somewhere in China or wherever. I can send Virginia BTC, and it doesn't really matter where she's located. And what I think is going to happen, or what I think can happen, is that cryptocurrency and blockchain will do for money what email can do for sending letters, right? Just makes it super easy. Yes, they are not fungible. So yeah, that's a little bit about the technology. I hope that was really interesting and kind of opens you guys up to what's possible. Popular use cases, we kind of dove into this a little bit already, but store value, micropayments, so you can make all these payments through blockchain. Digital securities, so when digitizing things, you can think about digitizing like stocks, dividends. Instead of like issuing like stocks on paper, you can now completely digitize that whole thing and reduce any extra work that's necessary for that, and just like really streamline the process. So that's really cool applications for finance. You can really bake really interesting things into tokens for governance. So for example, there are blockchains out there where the more tokens you own, the more voting power you have. So that's a use case for tokens. Supply chain is another one. So I think I remember a few people asked about supply chain in the questions beforehand. But in the same way that you can track Bitcoin transactions, you can track like the supply chain of a product. So I love coffee. And essentially, if I really cared if my coffee was really from Ethiopia or if my coffee really was from Vietnam or wherever, like in the future, coffee makers can track the supply chain of where the bean came from. And if it's all tracked on blockchain, anybody can go and verify that. Like you can go to Starbucks, you can go to Ralph's and verify that the coffee came from where it says it came from because that data was stored on blockchain. Of course, a lot of infrastructure needs to be built to make that happen, but I'm just telling you guys what's possible. And that same thing can apply to intellectual property for music, and just like really democratize like the way if an artist is making like 1 cent per every dollar spent on a song, that doesn't make any sense. But if you know where it came from, the artist can now make a case like, hey, I should get paid out proportionately. So those are the kind of things that are possible. And I went over a little bit about the digitally native assets. Kind of like collectibles, digital art, CryptoKitties is a huge one. Gaming example equals Fig. That is correct. All right. So why is this important for Republic? Let me just check my time real quick. All right, I'm good. You know, we're an investment platform. We have tons of users. So, you know, being able to distribute micropayments could be something really interesting for us, which is why we're exploring it. Liquidity. So, you know, a lot of people, when they invest in startups, right, like traditional VC investment, you're looking at like a 5 to 10 year, probably, you know, 10-year plus liquidity horizon. If you say you invested in, you know, an Uber back in the day, it'll take you like roughly 10 years to even get a return on that investment, if you get a return on investment. Digitizing your securities on blockchain can expedite that entire process, not from when they exit, but, you know, the tokens themselves can become liquid if they're tradable on exchanges. And that process is going to be much faster than a 10-year timeline. So like kind of like having everything digitally native and on blockchain, secure, verifiable, and all of that really shortens the time span for a lot of things by like improving the efficiency. So that can be really interesting for an investment platform like us. Auditability of transactions, super obvious. We want to make sure that every transaction is recorded, can't be overwritten, and people can't like say, hey, I never got that. I made that investment, but I didn't see it. Can I get a refund? It's like, hey, everything is here on blockchain. And, you know, it's all open source. You can verify yourself. Like, we can't even tamper it. Nobody can tamper it. It's all cryptographically secured. So that's really important. And also compliance, super huge one. You can attach KYC AML requirements to blockchain via smart contracts and then track ownership and things like that. So I know these concepts are a little bit more advanced and also kind of deep into finance, but, you know, that's kind of what we do here at Republic. So I wanted to present you guys with that information as well. So KYC AML stands for Know Your Customer and Anti-Money Laundering. And what that means is every investor on Republic and every investor period anywhere needs to be verified that they are a real person, they match their identity, and they are not on any like watch lists or anything like that. So we do that today for every investor on our platform, and that can be further expedited and be done more efficiently on blockchain. Once transacted, it cannot be changed, Kevin. Yes, that's correct. So once transacted, you cannot like Control Z or undo a transaction. So it's like all or nothing, but you can, I mean, there are blockchains out there that build in that functionality, but it has to be specifically built into the blockchain for that to happen. So here's some common questions. I'm nearing the end of it, but a few of you guys asked these questions and I wanted to make sure I addressed them. Is mining cryptocurrency dangerous for the environment? So that's an interesting question. Like a lot of mining for cryptocurrency is done through what's called proof of work. And that's what I was talking about earlier. And I was saying like computers do these crazy math problems to solve cryptography, to secure the blockchain. And that does take up a lot of electricity, which can in turn, you know, be dangerous for the environment. So the answer is yes, it can be dangerous for the environment, but there are different ways to secure blockchain that are being investigated. The biggest one is called proof of stake. And that one is not dangerous for the environment in the same way. It's not like using a lot of like electricity to just solve these like, you know, unnecessarily complicated math problems for just to secure a blockchain. There's a different way to do consensus that's not dangerous for the environment. Bitcoin equals blockchain. I explained that already. It's not the same thing, even though Bitcoin uses blockchain technology. Hacks, you know, this is super huge. Like if you guys are thinking about diving into Bitcoin or diving into blockchain and crypto, which I'm sure a lot of you already have, you want to be really careful about the security of your tokens and making sure you guys aren't a target for hacks. I myself have locked my SIM card. I've called Verizon, which is my carrier, and I was like, hey guys, I want you guys to know that if anybody tries to swap my SIM or make changes, like don't let them do it unless it's me on the phone asking you guys. So, you know, there are steps you can take to be as secure as possible. Exchange hacks, that's, you know, my biggest recommendation is if you can store your crypto not on an exchange. So there are wallets that you can purchase that you can store your crypto on, and we can dive into that in the 201 session. Is crypto used only for shady transactions? You know, a lot of the dark web stuff. That was in the past, I want to say early 2000s, that was really prevalent. But today, as Sandra mentioned earlier, a lot of really well-known, respected companies are diving into blockchain and using cryptocurrency for real use cases and real business transactions. So I'm sure there is still crypto being used for trading transactions. You can look into privacy coins if you're interested, but a lot of the industry is becoming, legitimized through the adoption from these larger companies and more established people and experts really trying to bring good use cases about kind of like what I was mentioning in the past few slides. Investing, I know a lot of questions. People were asking about how can I start investing in blockchain projects. There's a few ways you could get an exposure. First one is you could go on an exchange. There are exchanges located in the US. There are global ones like Binance. There's a ton of exchanges out there. And if there's a token or a project that you support and they have a cryptocurrency associated with it, you can go on that exchange and purchase that token. You can also go on Republic, and we have blockchain projects that are fundraising on Republic, and you can be involved that way as well. So now I want to open up to Q&A. I know I just kind of dropped a lot of information on you guys. I hope it was helpful. I hope I addressed a lot of them on the fly, but if not, Alex, Sandra, and Shrina are on the line as well, and happy to kind of take any questions right now. What are the platforms that host a blockchain? So Samer, that's a really good question. What hosts blockchain? And the answer to that question is the individual people that run the nodes are what host the blockchain. So blockchain is not hosted on Amazon Web Services or Google. It can be, it's possible. You can use those technologies to host it, but you don't need to. I'm running a node on my computer right now, and it's not on Amazon, it's just connected to the internet. So that's the beauty of blockchain, is that anybody can be a part of it and run a node, run a validator, and be part of the system that's securing the blockchain. So, and it really democratizes this whole movement. And that's what's really I think powerful about it. But yeah, with that, I will let Shrina, Sandra, Alex, please take over some of these questions. And if anybody, Sandra, if you want to unmute people, right now is a good time to do it. And yeah, I hope it was helpful for you guys.
Thanks everyone for hopping in here. As you can see, I've been answering some of your questions over chat. A brief introduction from me. I lead a lot of crypto and financial technology investments here at Republic. And in my past life, I have worked mostly as a due diligence person at a venture fund, looking at companies, including Republic, to invest in based on their merits, both as obviously as a company and the technologies they're using. And I got my start in this space working at a venture fund of funds, where I was taking in a lot of requests from the VCs all over the world who were asking for more permission to invest in cryptocurrencies, and sort of exploring a lot of the regulatory frameworks around doing so and what that meant for investors. So yeah, that's a bit about me. I would say one of the longer or more in-depth questions I got from chat, now I'm going to go ahead and open that up, is to describe how cryptocurrencies relate in more economic terms, such as supply, demand, and dilution. So many more terms we can really throw at the topic, but in essence, I think it's easier for us to start off thinking of cryptocurrency or a token as just a medium through which some underlying value is represented. So that being said, I could tokenize truly anything if I tried to, or enough people believe that I did. So I could tokenize a house, and therefore that house could then, say, for example, be fractionalized, and the ownership of it can be owned by multiple people. So to use the vocabulary in this context, as a fractional owner of a house, if the say homeowners association or the owners of that house chose to issue more shares or to generate more fractions, and thereby you would thereby dilute the existing shareholders of that house by issuing more shares. That's similar to even something like the US dollar. As we know, we all have our own cash stored either as hard cash or in other assets. And inflation occurs when the central bank chooses to print more money, which, for example, it has been doing very recently. So in that regard, a cryptocurrency can act in exactly the same way. We could do the exact same things with the US dollar, set target interest rates, and then pursue either quantitative easing policies. It all depends on how you choose to use that cryptocurrency. And as Bryan mentioned, its use case can really be as flexible as something that is non-fungible. So for example, like if any of you play video games or collect cards, there can be, for example, non-fungible representations of those cards or game skins or assets that don't act like a currency and wouldn't get diluted in the same way that a currency would. So I think cryptocurrency is a bit of a misnomer when used as a blanket term to describe, the umbrella of digital assets. So hope that clarified some of that.
Awesome. So I'm working on becoming a web developer, and I've looked into things like Coinbase API, and I'm wondering where can I get more information about using APIs in order to do cryptocurrency transactions using my own applications?
Gotcha. There is a wide world of literature between forums and blog posts all over the internet. I think even with my limited expertise, I wouldn't be able to give you all the best sources, but because I personally have never coded my own API before. That said, whether you're checking out crypto Reddit or Medium or say Hacker Noon, there are lots of great blog authors who are writing about using their own APIs and such. And I think you will find those useful because there isn't any one textbook on it quite yet.
Hey,
Right.
Jonathan, I can chime in real quick. If I were you, I would research the blockchains that you like, and literally every blockchain out there, EOS, Nervos, Bitcoin, like they all have API docs. Basically, you need to find their developer community, and all of those developer communities have API documentation for you to read. It's on their GitHub, and just go explore it. And if not, post on the forum. Everybody is itching for developers to build on their platform. So just go out there.
All right. Thank you all so much.
Great question, Jonathan. And with that, we are basically at time. Bryan, Alex, thank you so much for your nuggets of brightness and information. Thank you, the audience, for your engagement and all your questions. I hope that you found the session valuable, and we would love to have you at Blockchain 201 next Thursday on July 9th. Also, if you would like to learn more about Republic or just understand where we stand on the blockchain projects and whatnot, we would love to have you join our CEO speaking in an AMA, ask anything from on Telegram, and there's a link. Take a picture of it so you have it, and we hope that you will be able to join either at our AMA, our Blockchain 201 session, or our future webinars. So with that, thank you again. Thanks everyone, and you all have a great day.